everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Horns Report here on KXAN Plus. I'm your host, Billy Gates, and we are, of course, going to talk about the 35-10 loss the Longhorns had to the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday at Sanford Stadium between the hedges there in Athens, Georgia. And here to talk about is KXAN Sports Director Roger Wallace. And Roger, you and I, we've heard Steve Sarkisian talk about this game. We've seen everything. Just sort of that fourth quarter collapse. It was just really that sequence where there was an onside kick in there that surprised half the nation pretty much. That was just sort of the backbreaker there.
Yeah, it kind of felt like there were three different big components to the game right off the bat. Texas scores, but they don't score a touchdown, and it was kind of the problems that have reared their head again, and that was a penalty, a drop, unable to convert in the red zone, so they settle for three. But they get off to a 3-0 start on the road, and then boom, Georgia back-to-back touchdown drives, made it look pretty easy, and you started to wonder, okay, it's going to be a long night for the Texas defense. Well, then you fast forward after a few stops, and all of a sudden you're late in the third quarter, still 14-3. Anthony Hill gets the interception. Arch Manning hits Ryan Wingo in the back of the end zone after that pass interference. And all right, it's 14-10 now, and Texas has showed that they can get some stops. Well, Georgia marches right down, made it look easy again, and then to your point, that's when the backbreaker happened, that onside kick. So Texas offense doesn't see the field from after the Wingo touchdown to cut it to 14-10 until it's 28-10, and Georgia ate up about 12 minutes of game clock in those two possessions wrapped around the onside kick, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and you kind of – I don't know if I certainly couldn't feel that onside kick coming. I mean, it's one of those things where if you're Kirby Smart, you always got something in his back pocket, right? I mean, that's just what he's built his whole coaching career on, is being able to be 1-2 steps ahead of the other guy on the other sideline. And it certainly felt like Kirby was playing chess when maybe perhaps Steve and the Texas coaching staff were maybe playing some checkers.
Gutsy call.
Yeah.
Perfectly executed.
Absolutely.
Absolute perfect kick. A couple of hops and the big room service hop. If you watch it, though, Texas, they were definitely caught off guard, and then they didn't really attack the football or attack any of the Georgia players, and it made it look pretty easy for Georgia. But, yeah, it's a gutsy call, and sure, it's a great call when it works.
Right.
If Texas recovers it and they get a short field and score, then you're right back to a 4-point ball game. But that's not what happened. And then all of a sudden you're down 28-10, and clearly the wind is out of their sails, and it was just going to be too much of an uphill battle. But it was a lot of the same problems for Texas. Unable to get anything going running the ball, minus that first drive where they had a little success, but especially from the running backs. The numbers are skewed because the sack yardage counts against in college football, but still they weren't good. They're the worst rushing team in the SEC. And, the defense got exposed similar to the fourth quarter against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and Steve talked about all of that in the press conference here on Monday when he met with the press corps as it were. And we're hearing a little bit from him in a second, but Roger, early on in that game, I want to kind of focus on a little bit. A lot of drop passes. Seemed like Arch Manning was throwing the ball with some zip. He was throwing with some accuracy. He was playing a pretty good ball game, actually, all things considered, especially early on. But receivers had some butterfingers a little bit, and there were some pretty big penalties, not just in the first half particularly, but also the second half. It's kind of been a running theme with the penalties. We'll hear from Steve a bit about that, but just like, I mean, where do you think they go with this penalty issue? Because it's been an issue the entire season.
Yeah, I don't know how you clean it up other than not commit penalties. Now,
sure.
You grab a guy because you're getting beat. That's a holding penalty, right? You pass interfere because you're getting beat. Things like that. It's the dead ball. It's the pre-snap penalties and things like that. And obviously, Colin Simmons has just had an incredible back end of the season, but that's a huge play. When he jumps on fourth down, when I think that was exactly what Georgia wanted to see if they can do, is entice on 4th and 5, entice Texas to jump, and so it happened. And Sark was asked about it, and he goes, "Well, they're being called for a lot of different reasons. If it's a technique thing, that's one thing. That's where he's got to make personnel changes. If it's a mental thing, that's where he's got to address it. You're not going to take Colin Simmons out of the ball game because he committed a penalty.
No,
he's too good of a player.
Yeah."
So, I don't. If Sark doesn't have a great answer for it, I certainly don't. Other than it does seem to be a theme that has gone on all year, so it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
And then the drops. It started in week 1. They had some drops against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And as dynamic as Ryan Wingo can be, that is his Achilles heel. And sometimes he makes the tougher catches than the more routine catches.
Yeah.
Those drag routes where it looks like there's room to run, can't hang on to the ball. It's the old cliche of he looked up too soon trying to run. But tight ends dropped it as well, and they had a couple of plays. And, I asked Sark about this today because Arch Manning suddenly is not the topic anymore when it comes to what's wrong.
Sure, yeah.
And that was a problem even in the winning part in those 3 non-conference, especially obviously the UTEP game. Florida, he's running for his life, but he made some mistakes. And so Arch was always a topic, one reason or another. It's funny now. He hasn't really been a topic other than his health after Mississippi State. And, when he's playing well and put the back-to-back, the big 300-yard passing game, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. So it's strange that they've gotten over the hump in that area, but it's the other stuff that is holding this team down. And they had no margin for error. That was the problem. Yeah, the Ohio State game was the number 2 team in the country. You can say all that, but it was a loss. And so instead of going to Florida and suffering their first loss, they suffered their second loss. And then 3, and the way it happened just seems like it's probably going to be too much to overcome when it comes to the college football rankings. 21-14, 21-17. They probably dropped to 13 or 14, and they're still in it now. And I'm not saying the AP has anything to do with the playoff ranking, but they kind of mirror each other if you followed them. They're fairly consistent. And I'll be interested to see Tuesday night if they're outside of the top 15 or 16. There's going to need to be chaos in front of them. Yeah. Because they got to finish in the top 10. Right. Because a group of 4 is not going to be in the top 10 or the top 12, and probably the ACC is not going to be in the top 12. Right.
Yeah. No, they're going to have to do some praying and wishing, and obviously take care of business these next 2 weeks against Arkansas and A&M there on Black Friday to reinsert themselves into the CFP conversation. Going back to the penalty thing, let's hear from Sarkisian about those penalties and maybe what has to happen. So here's Steve.
You have players who do repeatedly commit those penalties, and you've said you've addressed them internally. When that doesn't carry over, what more can you do to try to fix it?
Well, I think that's when you got to make some of the tough decisions, right? When a player, it's one thing is, like, again, there's a variety of penalties. What types of penalties are we getting, and then can they be rectified? And if they can be rectified, and then they don't get rectified, then you got to make some of those tough decisions. And I think that's the thing. I think it's easy to throw a blanket statement out. What's up with the penalties? Well, what are the types of penalties? When are they occurring? How are they occurring? That's when you got to drill deep. You got to look a little deeper than just throwing a blanket over something.
So 9 penalties for 58 yards, Roger. We mentioned the offside penalty on Colin Simmons, rather. Steve's not committing an offside penalty. You hear him say, well, we have to make some tough decisions. Kind of sounds, I don't think you would bench Colin Simmons or anything like we'd said earlier, but sounds like that tough decision-making could mean some guys might be playing a little less.
Yeah, and listen, the coaches have to weigh, does the good outweigh the bad? Mm-hmm. And they're going to put the players on there that think give them the best chance. It's the oldest cliche you can say about coaching. So if they're going to pull a guy because penalties continue to be an issue, there also has to be somebody that can step in and still be as productive in that position. Because let's be honest, maybe 1 or 2 penalties wrapped around 40 or 50 snaps, you're going to have to live with those penalties if that player is someone you deem much more productive. So, he's got to say it, right? He's got to say, I got to do something about it. Yeah. But he's going to play the guys that give them the best chance. If it becomes habitual with somebody, especially holding, pass interference, things like that, where they're just getting beat, then you got to try somebody else. But we're at game 11 now. Right. The time for all this. It needed to happen before they went to Florida after 4 non-conference games. Now you're just trying to hang on stay as healthy as you can. Game
Right.
plan for an Arkansas team that Sark fully admitted scares them.
Yeah.
Because you always think that one of these teams is going to get somebody, and Texas doesn't want to be that team, knowing what's coming up a week from Friday with the Aggies coming to town.
Yeah, recapping the Georgia game real quick, just some numbers, then we'll move on to the Arkansas game. Arch Manning, 27 of 43 for 251 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. That pick didn't exactly hurt the Longhorns per se. They were able to get a 3-and-out that next defensive drive, get the ball back, so there wasn't really any harm there. No harm, no foul kind of thing. Ryan Wingo, 9 catches, 61 yards, 13 targets. Obviously, you want to see the catch number and the target number a little closer together. They had him down for 1 drop. I would have said 2, but hey, maybe I'm hard on the guy. And he had the 7-yard touchdown pass from Manning. DeAndre Moore, 5 catches, 75 yards. Emmett Mosley, 3 catches, 66 yards. So some pretty good production out of those guys. It's the rushing component that we're still kind of worried about, Roger. Trey Wisner, 9 carries, 37 yards. It was good early on, but as Georgia started to go on that huge tear in the fourth quarter, kind of took Sarkisian and the Longhorns out of their game plan.
Yeah, they just didn't run it that much,
Yeah.
and Wisner had the big loss. So
Right.
that was skews the numbers.
Brutal.
You're trying to fight for yardage, and it turns into a huge negative play, and it was on 2nd down. So 2nd and short, 3rd and long, obviously it's more difficult. So, it's one of those things where when it's effort, it's hard to fault, but sometimes that's where you've got to understand where you are on the field, the situation in the game, and just kind of take your medicine, kind of like a quarterback, dirting the ball rather than taking a chance.
Yeah.
So, but still, they aren't running the ball enough because either A, they're not getting production, or B, they fall behind big and they have to throw the ball. But it has been a weird season offensively for a team that ran the ball so well last year. Wisner, the only returning 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC. And it's just been something that's haunted them all season long. And I'm going to be interested to see what happens in the offseason. I know they've got a big-time running back committed, but I think Sark may go looking for somebody that's got a few skins on the wall in college football as well. We've just seen what a difference a dynamic running game can make.
Absolutely, and like we've seen what Sarkisian has done in the transfer portal with the defensive front. Maybe if there's
no doubt,
if there's enough guys out there who want to change schools, maybe that's where Sarkisian and his staff goes looking to try to maybe fill in a hole at guard or tackle or somewhere to maybe kind of like drum up that same sort of magic that he's had in the defensive front.
Yeah, and you're to the point now where you're a 3-loss team, and who knows how it ends. You got to go get some. You got to go get some guys that can help, because it can't be, well, we have a young offensive line.
Sure.
Well, you have a young offensive line minus DJ Campbell. Also, Cole Hudson's not young, so you have a young offensive line that has struggled. So other than Trevor Gooseby at left tackle, I'm not sure if anybody's job is safe if they can find somebody that they think can be an upgrade. Same in the backfield.
Exactly.
With Baxter, Simon. And what they have in the running game, Christian Clark as well. He hasn't really been a factor the last month or so. So nobody's safe. I mean, they're going to try to upgrade it at every position, and I wouldn't be surprised if instead of it's one tight end. I mean, I thought Jack Endries would have a bigger year. It also might have something to do with, I think Quinn Ewers was a little bit more comfortable with the tight end, but I thought they'd get more out of the tight end the way it started. So, kind of take your pick, and I don't think anything's off the table.
No, it should be interesting to see what they do. But, before they do any of that, they got to play at least 2 more games. They'll get a bowl game, too, later on. No telling where they'll be there. But as far as right now, they've got Arkansas on Saturday. We've alluded to it a little bit, how Steve Sarkisian called the Razorbacks very scary. And so let's hear from Steve right now about this very scary Razorback team. Even though they're 2-8 and they've lost 8 consecutive games and haven't won the SEC, how could they be scary, you say? Well, here, let's have Steve tell you.
Coach, do you consider this a trap game after the disappointing loss Saturday, the Aggies looming the day after Thanksgiving?
It's a scary game, yeah.
How do you motivate this week?
Yeah, I think it's a very scary game because this is a very dangerous Arkansas team, and we addressed that with the team this morning. You put up their last 5 games, the score of all those games, and Like I said, 23-22, I think, versus LSU. The Auburn game, Auburn gets a late score to make it 34, I think 23, something like that. A&M's 45-42. Mississippi State's 38-35. Tennessee is 34-31. So they got their attention real quick. You turn the tape on, it catches their attention real quick. But I think the other side of it is, man, we're restoring a great rivalry. And it's first time for Arkansas to be back at DKR in quite some time. And so I know our guys are excited about that too. They've had to go there twice now, and they know what that environment was like. So for them to come here and to play in DKR, I know our guys are excited about the opportunity. But we need to be careful. I'll definitely say that.
Roger, you look at Arkansas' schedule and their scores, like what Steve was saying. It is as impressive as it is head-scratching to see how close they've been in every single, not even SEC game. Obviously, you take out the 56-13 slacking Notre Dame gave them, cost Sam Pittman his job. But you look at all the other games that they've lost their SEC games, 6 SEC games, by an average of 4.1 points. It is absurd how they haven't just gotten over the hump in one of these games.
Kind of reminds you of when Texas went to Starkville against Mississippi State. They were playing teams close. What they had happen in Florida, they're on their way and they throw the pick. Had a chance to get that victory. So for sure. And Sark was, coaches don't typically acknowledge trap games because then it's basically saying that the next one is more important than this one.
Right.
But he was pretty clear. Yeah, this is a dangerous game. And he knows his kids are human, and what the Aggies are doing right now, and they can at least upset the apple cart a little bit if they knock off A&M. But first and foremost, they want to get to 9 wins, which gives them a chance to get to 10 wins. So you got to beat Arkansas, and then like we said earlier, probably not going to get in the college football playoff.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
You get an impressive win this week, and you do the same against the Aggies. You don't know where you might end up. So this is a scary game for a number of reasons. Their confidence has to be shaken a little bit. They're a little bit beat up. We don't know about Anthony Hill and Ryan Wingo. Sark only said he's optimistic with them. We saw him get injured in the ball game on Saturday and kept playing. So for a lot of reasons, this is a dangerous game. Sometimes coming home can be great. Sometimes if things don't go well early, it's not the best place to be if you start hearing the grumbling. So I think that's another component here is getting off to a good start and getting the 100,000 on your side.
Absolutely. Yeah, Anthony Hill reportedly has a broken bone in his hand. That's not confirmed by anybody on the team yet. We're going to know more on Wednesday when the SEC injury report comes out. But you have to think that if Hill's banged up, maybe we don't know. Like we don't want to speculate or anything, but that's just kind of the reporting that's been coming out, so we'll have to wait and see. I'm just still baffled by these scores, Roger. Like I'm looking at them on my monitor here. They lose to Memphis 32-31, not an SEC game, but still Memphis. They were kind of challenging to be that group of 5 CFP team earlier in the season. Lose to Ole Miss 41-35. That was before Sam Pittman was fired. After Sam Pittman was fired, interim head coach Bobby Petrino takes over. The renowned offensive mind that he is. They lose to Tennessee 34-31. They lose to A&M 45-42. They lose to Auburn 33-24. Auburn scores late to kind of stretch that game out a little bit. Lose to Mississippi State 38-35. And then last week, they lose to LSU 23-22.
Well, we're going to see about this running game for Texas because Arkansas has got the worst run defense in the SEC. They're giving up more than 180 yards. They're the worst scoring defense in the SEC. So we're going to see. It's kind of, think about Texas last year. How many close games did they win? They find a way to win, including Arkansas. That was was down to the wire. They needed a big strip by Alfred Collins. Then, of course, the A&M game needed some big plays down the stretch. Vanderbilt, take your pick. So, some teams find a way to win those games. Some teams find ways to lose those games. And that was another eye-opener with the Georgia game for Texas. Is Sark, when he's lost the last few years, they've been close games. This year, both one-score games. Texas had the ball very late in the game with the chance to drive and tie it up. So that was much different. And I think that's why this team, as much as anything, and I'll sound like a coach, but I think this week mentally to get back, knowing that some of their hopes and dreams realistically are gone by the wayside, which they always seem to have that to fall back on. It's all in front of us now. Well, going to the SEC championship, not in front of you.
Not going to work.
Going to the college football playoff, not realistic.
Right.
Can't say no until all the games are played. So what's the mindset? Business decisions, right? I
Right.
mean, you got players that, I mean, NIL probably helps the business decisions because
Sure.
once you leave the team, the well runs dry.
Right.
So,
It's when the checks stop
a
coming.
lot of factors going into
Sure.
this, but it'll be interesting to see if Texas
Yeah.
can get things turned back around. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't expect a pretty solid performance.
Right.
Physically, you wonder how they are
Sure.
a little bit mentally going in.
Yeah, and Bobby Petrino was talking about this in his press conference on Monday with the reporting corps there in Fayetteville. Last season, Texas beat up Taylor Green, and he's a tremendously athletic quarterback. He's probably one of the more athletic guys in the SEC, except last year Texas just hit him so much that he couldn't really do anything. Bobby Petrino was talking, and he's like, well, they're probably going to try to do the same thing, so hopefully maybe this is sort of a bounce back game defensively for the Longhorns. I kind of feel like that this is kind of the rebound game for them.
Well, they need to make, defense has to help this team. That's
Yeah.
just a reality of it. I think we said that last week about how do you upset Georgia when your offense just has not been terribly consistent. Well, look how they got their first touchdown and only offensive touchdown, an interception, short field, and then they do it. And Kentucky, they got the pick. It didn't lead to anything, but it took away a possession. Colin Simmons gets the strip sack on Diego Pavia, and that kind of got the snowball going early. So, yeah, I mean, the defense has got to get after it. They got to create something. We haven't seen a defensive touchdown this season, if my memory serves me correct. So
I don't think so either. Yeah.
Maybe that'll be something to look forward to on Saturday. I think isn't that what Noah knows? That's his job on
so.
Thursdays.
That is
I'm
Noah's job.
I'm kind of stepping into his waters there with predicting a defensive touchdown. But the defense has got to help out, and we'll see if this offense can. For 3 quarters against Vanderbilt, this was an offense where people were saying, okay, they got things figured out a little bit.
Yeah,
See.
yeah. No, we'll
that kind of season, right?
Yeah, it is. It has been that kind of season. It's been pretty bizarre over there at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium.
You're baffled by the Arkansas scores. How about this one? 4 games, Texas has scored 1 offensive touchdown this season. I mean that. Yeah, that's. And the Kentucky game was a 5-yard drive because of the niblet.
Because of the
punt return.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Whew. All right. Well, we're all going to find out what's going to happen on Saturday. 2:30.
That's why they play the games.
2:30. That's exactly. That's why these games aren't on paper or on the buzzing electric football stadium that we all grew up playing. 2:30 on Saturday. Texas hosts Arkansas. Got to think of a name for this rivalry, right? Either the Lone Star Showdown with Texas A&M. Now that we're having this rekindled rivalry with the old Southwest Conference foes.
Yeah, well, it's the old border war.
Oh, border war, maybe. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Should we do the football, basketball news from Monday?
Yes,
because Texas got a big commitment from Melissa High School. His name's Austin Gooseby. And big brother Trevor, of course, starting left tackle, came down to Texas BYU. BYU's got a ton of NIL money. They're going crazy. So Austin Gooseby committed, a big get for Sean Miller, obviously. And his recruiting in first year is going pretty well. I read where they may have considered a top 5 class. So that was a big get to keep Gooseby in the state. Yeah. So you keep him in the state. He's got the connection. Bo Ogden, of course, his dad Chris is the general manager, former Longhorn player, but pretty good building blocks. For Sean Miller's first real recruiting class.
And we'll get to the basketball teams, both of them, men's and women's, here on Horns Report in later shows. But for now, we just kind of focus on football. But the men's team, they had that win over Kansas City on Saturday by, 16 points, something like that?
It was 16.
16, so I mean, like...
Which is how many threes they missed, by the way.
Okay, all right.
4 of 20.
Oh, boy, yeah. That's, hey, when the jumpers aren't falling, right? But obviously you want to see an SEC team like Texas maybe put it on a Summit team like Kansas City a little bit harder than that. But, with all the transfers they have, it's going to take this Longhorn team a while really to get it going and really to get Coach Miller kind of what he wants in a team. It's just going to take a little bit.
They play Ryder on Tuesday night. Yeah. They're out in New Jersey. That's a 4-game homestand. And then when we're doing the Horns Report next Monday, they're going to be in Maui getting ready to play Arizona State. Not only it's the Maui Invitational, but it's 3 games in 3 days. And maybe the best team in the field that they'll face potentially is their first-round matchup.
Arizona
Typically,
State.
that's not the way that field is set up, but there's not really the traditional blue blood going to Maui this year. So, and then the women go to the Players Era, where they're going to have 2 big games Thanksgiving week.
Those
as
are
well.
going to be,
Yeah, they get James Madison on Wednesday, so that crossover time of year. But
Yeah.
Saturday at 2:30, I'm really interested to see how this thing plays out for the Longhorns, and if they can get that 8th win before the Aggies come to town. A&M will, they'll cruise over Samford and be 11-0.
Sure.
And one other thing back to this weekend,
Yeah.
Billy, that I think hurt Texas, especially if they had played Georgia close.
Right.
Oklahoma winning.
Sure. Oh,
Because now
absolutely.
you can't say, well, Texas beat Oklahoma.
Right.
Well, Texas is 3 losses, Oklahoma's 2. So that argument is out the window, and I don't think Oklahoma loses. Missouri sounds like they're going to get their quarterback back, so maybe they give them a game. But what a story there if they find their way into the playoff.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how bad Mateer's hand was when he came back against Texas in the Red River rivalry. Anyway, well, that'll do it for this episode of the Horns Report. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. For Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we'll talk to you again soon.